Welcome to today's webinar, Next Stop for Great Rail Journeys, Cloudflare Load Balancing. We have a fully packed agenda for you for the next 60 minutes. You will be muted during the session, but at the end we have some opportunities for FAQ, for questions, but also please ask your questions in the chat box. So my name is Christian Paulus. I'm the Head of Product Marketing here at Cloudflare. And I'm co-presenting today with Nigel Hepworth, who is actually joining us from the UK. Nigel is the Managing Director at Active Solutions Limited, and he has been supporting Great Rail Journeys using Cloudflare and setting up the Cloudflare Load Balancer. To give you some background, Great Rail Journey is the case study we will be discussing today. And Great Rail Journey is actually the UK's leading seller of holidays by rail. So I want to quickly walk you through our agenda for today. So first, I will give you a very quick overview of the new Cloudflare load balancing capabilities. And then the majority of the time, Nigel will spend in a detailed case study about the implementation of Cloudflare load balancing at Great Rail Journeys. At the end, then, I will walk you through a few very short videos of how to set up load balancing, and then the remaining time then we can spend on questions and answers. So Cloudflare really accelerates and protects websites, web applications, and APIs. We have built a global network to do this, and this network is available as a service. So roughly 10% of the worldwide HTTP internet traffic is actually flowing through our network, so it's actually really, really large. And this network can sit in front of your public cloud, for example, AWS, Azure, Google, or any SaaS application, Salesforce, for example, or of course also your on-prem data centers, and all of this to really simplify your networking. As part of our networking, we are also providing DNS services, and we actually have a market share of over 38% for the Alexa top 1 million. So this is by far the largest DNS service which is available worldwide. We are about 3 times larger than the next biggest DNS provider. And we're also the fastest DNS service worldwide. So this is important because load balancing, our topic today, is based on the DNS service. And then this also makes our load balancing fast, and the failover is very, very fast. So let me walk you through some of the challenges our customers typically see around load balancing. So obviously this is related to availability and performance, which is critical to the success of many businesses. So slow or unavailable websites impact revenue, reputation, customer loyalty, and a lot of other business KPIs. Let me walk you through an example actually from Amazon.com. And even Amazon.com website went down a few times in the past few years. So last time was, I think, 2013, and the website went down for an estimated 15 to 45 minutes, which cost the company about 1.8 to 5.3 million in lost sales, based on an average sales of about $117,000 per minute. Interestingly enough, Amazon also tested the impact on latency on conversion rates, and they found that about 100 milliseconds in latency reduced sales by about 1%. So this number, very commonly quoted, is also confirmed by Google, who state that latency of around 100 to 400 milliseconds has a measurable impact on consumer behavior. So overall, we see 2 common types of problems. The first one would be around service disruptions. And here websites become unavailable when traffic hits unreliable or misconfigured servers, or if the web application itself has issues. Often there's a lack of visibility into the availability of the service, and then traffic still gets routed to this service even though it's not available, and then the traffic gets dropped, and obviously then for the end user it looks like the service is not available. If you look to the right side of the slide, there's an issue around latency, and here we really have 2 scenarios. Either the service might be overutilized and does not perform or scale, or perhaps traffic gets routed to geographically very distant servers, and then this of course just adds latency to the traffic. So these are the challenges which Cloudflare Load Balancing was built to address. So there are really two major capabilities. The first one is around health checks with fast failover, and the second one is around global and local load balancing. So health checks with fast failover, let's start with this one first. Cloudflare actively monitors the availability of servers from our data centers around the globe, and we can do this as often as every 15 seconds. And if a server gets marked as unhealthy, then failover happens really within a few seconds, and we can route traffic to the available servers. As I mentioned before, load balancing is powered by Cloudflare's DNS, which is the fastest DNS provider globally. And so we don't need to wait for public time to live to expire. Our failover really happens within a few seconds. The second aspect here, the second capability is around global and local load balancing. So we can reduce the latency for our customers by load balancing traffic across multiple servers or by routing traffic to the closest geolocation region. Of course, with Cloudflare, you're getting a big content delivery network which distributes content across the global, Cloudflare's global data centers for fast local access. But with global load balancing, you also get a lot more control to ensure that even for dynamic data, you can route traffic to a data center which is geographically close. So overall, the benefits are that it's very, very simple to set up. You will see that you can, and I will show you some videos later at the end of the session, you will see that you can set up load balancing really within 5 minutes. It's very, very simple. But the second really major benefit is our DDoS resilience. So our Anycast network, our global network, is about 10 times bigger than the largest DDoS attack which has ever occurred. And this allows us to, it makes it very unlikely that our network will go down because we can just absorb this attack traffic. And this way, we have the ability to always route traffic to available servers, even under stress. And of course, then there are the performance benefit of the DNS network I already mentioned before. So this is a quick overview of our capabilities. At this time, it would be great to do a quick survey. So here you have 4 options, which are some of the areas we are addressing with load balancing. And please let us know what are your main challenges? What would you like to address with Cloudflare load balancing? So just check one or more of these boxes, and then we can see in a few seconds then what the result will be. So just vote no. Give you a few seconds to do that. So I see the first responses are coming in. Give a little bit more time to do this. Yeah, just check some of those boxes. We have the first results. Give you 5, 10 more seconds to do this. All right, let me skip to the results. Let's see whether we can see this here. Okay, here we see. So actually the winner is actually global load balancing. So this is actually confirming what I also have heard when I talk to our customers. And then local load balancing and failover is on a par, and then health checks is actually the follower here. So very interesting. Global load balancing wasn't necessarily my tip when we started this capability originally, but that's also what I heard from many of our customers. So very interesting. So at this time, I would like to hand over to Nigel, who will then walk us through the case study of Great Drill Journeys. Nigel, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So, my name is Nigel Hepworth and I'm the Managing Director at Active Solutions Limited in the UK. We develop, support and optimize websites, and we have a long history of developing and optimizing complex websites like the one we're going to talk about today, Great Rail Journeys. My background was in real-time control systems before I moved into the internet systems, so performance and reliability are key to many of the things that we get involved in. Great Rail's website is a online booking system, shop and book system for buying rail-based holidays. So Great Rail Journeys is a UK tour operator, and they supply holidays or vacations to travellers wanting to have an escorted rail holiday, and it allows customers to search for and book holidays online. So about a year ago, the site was primarily UK-based. Most of the customers were in the UK, and we have a home page that looks like this slide here, and the customer could step through and search. So in this instance, we've searched for rail tours in Italy, and a typical result of a search is a destination choice similar to this, with some information and a list of tours, as at the bottom of this screenshot here. The Lake Garda tour is an individual holiday with a price in pounds, and you can then step through to the individual tour and, if necessary, buy online the tour for any number of people, and that books rail time into the reservation system. So about a year ago, we were in the position where we had a site that you could book and shop and book for your rail holiday online using this website. The web hosting was at a data center. In front of that was a hardware-based WAF, and outside that was a CDN. And each of these three components was provided by and supported by different vendors, and the solution was getting quite complicated. About 9-10 months ago, Great Rail Journeys started a more concerted effort to expand into the US and Canadian markets, as well as Australia, and we needed to expand the sites globally and allow customization of the sites, and obviously a single CMS system had to be able to drive all of this so that it could be managed and developed in a coordinated way. So we wanted separate analytics for each country. We wanted each country's version of the website to have separated marketing and tracking tags with automated visitor detection, so a customer that arrived at the site from the US would be shown US-specific content and clearly localized pricing, so that you'll be able to shop and book in their local currency. We had a set of technical requirements that went alongside the business requirements. So we obviously wanted to retain a CDN to deliver the content to the end users, because as everybody knows that's involved in website design and optimization, page response time is critical to getting good conversion. We wanted to retain a WAF to protect the system from malicious attacks. We wanted to expand out to have multiple origin servers, so we could have local origin servers in the US close to the US customers, so that the latency will be as small as possible. Although the CDN can deliver a lot of the content, because it's an online shopping and booking system, some of the traffic has to flow through to a reservation system at the back end. We needed high availability, and key to making all this work was geographic routing, a DNS system to do this for us. We obviously wanted some technical solution for the local user detection, and a key goal was to try and minimize the number of suppliers that we had, so that in the event of a problem, we had one or two people to liaise with, rather than a whole raft of independent vendors. So we went through a vendor selection process and selected Cloudflare because of the load balancing that they're able to offer, that integrated with the CDN, the WAF, and the DNS from a single provider. also the added advantage that it's a single web-based user controllable user interface for configuring and deploying the systems through Cloudflare, so we didn't need to rely on third-party engineering or any other vendors to get involved in deploying the system. So the solution we ended up with involved Cloudflare, a number of data centers in the UK and overseas. So the data centers, the computers themselves are all hosted at Rackspace. And on top of that, we have a service monitoring layer in addition to the service monitoring that Cloudflare does. So we're able to tell on a global basis what the page response times are and validate that the solution delivered by Cloudflare and Rackspace is meeting our SLAs. So in the event of any one of the data centers or servers failing, Cloudflare ensures that the end users are getting the website delivered from an active data center. Now, we also discovered, as part of all of the work and engineering we were doing, that the Cloudflare load balancing solution also provided a solution to our deployment strategy. So what we're able to do is, by effectively faking to Cloudflare through our monitoring status page the fact that the data center was offline, we're able to take data centers offline, do code deployments and website deployments, test using host file entries the data center, then bring the data center back online, and then move on to the next data center. And we use some automated replication scripts to copy from the working primary data center, which is in Crawley in the UK, to other data centers that are on our network. So we've automated that process, and at the end of that process, we use Cloudflare's APIs to clear the Cloudflare cache for any content that would have been affected by the deployment. So load balancing has also allowed us to solve some of the deployment problems and fully automate a lot of the things that were manual in the past. So once we had the infrastructure in place, we were able to allow user detection. So the site development allowed us to then move on and deploy for the US market a site that would detect the user using the Cloudflare headers. And we present a customized site. So you can see in this example here that the headers changed to have a US toll-free number and the US flag. Pricing has switched to dollars. And the tours that are presented on this site are customized for the US market. So whereas you may buy a tour in Europe that originates, for instance, in London, and you go by train to Italy and then take some further train tours in Italy, that for US customers, they would fly into a centre in Italy and be taken onwards from there by the tour manager, who escorts people on their holidays to the destination. So that they are slightly different tours that are offered worldwide, but the site automatically compensates for that by detecting where the user is coming from. And you'll see that the site is very similar in structure, in that you have a destination page which shows you in this case Italy. This is a typical example of a destination page. The prices are now shown in dollars, and as you move on to the details of the tour, the tour itinerary that's shown on here is the itinerary map further down the page on this screen in particular, is customized for the US version of the itinerary. So, and that's all done by using Cloudflare headers to detect where the customer's coming from and present them the appropriate content. Okay. So, as I said, we used the technology to maximize performance. So we wanted to auto-detect the visitor location. So to do that, we use the Cloudflare response headers, so we can tell where in the world the customers are coming from and show them the appropriate content. We used a lot of site structure change to optimize the content that's delivered, so that it was broken down into smaller pieces and we used Ajax to infill some of the pages to customize for each of the local markets so that we could maximize the amount of content that we cached. We use very simple rules inside Cloudflare to control the caching. So in Cloudflare, you've got the ability to create manual caching rules to determine for different content types and different URL structures what the caching rules are. But we implemented a simple rule, which was to just cache everything and use the response headers from the server to determine how long things are cached, which means that the configuration that we have in Cloudflare is extremely simple, and the clever parts of the technology are in the website in delivering the right response headers. So as you're making edits in the CDN system, we can allow things to be published at certain times by automatically getting the cache to expire at a given time, knowing that the content's going to change at that time. And we also use mobile optimization and other techniques on the website, and also make use of the mobile optimizations within Cloudflare to deliver a highly optimized mobile experience. So our independent monitoring system that we use to measure site performance gives us a worldwide average response time of under 2 seconds. And we use a tool called Uptrends to monitor this, and this monitors from numerous locations around the world and ensures that we have validation of that the whole system is working as intended. In terms of project timelines, the go-ahead to start on the international development we got on the 3rd of March last year, and the vendor selection for Cloudflare was done by the 28th of October. And once we'd selected Cloudflare, we did some initial site optimization, because out of the box, vendors like Cloudflare will tell you that the solution works, but you will end up getting perhaps 50% of the benefit if you don't design a integrated, systems engineered solution incorporating best practices top to bottom. So we spent some time making sure that we were using all of the facilities that Cloudflare would allow us to take advantage of. So we carefully tagged content, for example. So Cloudflare allows you to tag content by putting headers that get sent to the Cloudflare cache. So when we do a deployment and we want to clear cache, each element on the site has been tagged specifically so that things like images and static content, we never issue a clear cache for using the API, and we can target specific areas of the site. So there's no complete cache purges need to take place, which ensures we end up with, even when deployments are going on and content's being changed by the users, we can still maintain a very high cache hit ratio. We're not having to repopulate the cache constantly. As I said, out of the box it will work, but we decided on our monitoring solution. So Cloudflare monitors the websites on the origin servers on a constant basis, and our monitoring URL is a dynamic page, and that validates that the CMS and its database connectivity and everything's 100% functional before we return an OK status, so that we're fairly confident that if Cloudflare thinks the server is up, we're confident that the CMS and the databases and all of the other components that underlay the monitoring page are accurate. So, by default, Cloudflare will check a URL, but further on you'll see in the videos later on that you can specify content to check. So we actively return an OK status in the content if we're sure that the system's working. So it's important for things like that they're checked carefully. And then, on the 24th of November last year, we went live with the international sites with full load balancing and all the additional optimizations we did to make that work internationally. So the result of the careful site engineering and Cloudflare CDN and other things was that we ended up with a very high degree of caching. Although this isn't directly related to load balancing, it's effectively offloaded a lot of work from the origin servers out to the Cloudflare CDN, and that 92% is actually understated because we're using uptrends to monitor the traffic on a regular basis as well. Some of the monitoring traffic is explicitly designed to access certain pages that we've put on the site that are non-cacheable, so that allows us to make sure that when the site's accessed, that a non-cached page can be reached. So the uptrends is telling us that a page can be reached by bypassing through the CDN all the way through to the origin, and the origin is still working. So some of that 8% is our additional monitoring traffic that's reaching through the CDN to the origin, ensuring we have a fully functional system. The origin servers are fully protected by Cloudflare's WAF, and we've put quite a lot of work into the rules that are there and firewalled them so that only the Cloudflare access points are available to access the host servers. And we've got high availability because we've used the failover systems within Cloudflare to ensure that the customers are only, and Cloudflare are only accessing origin servers that are active and available. So our experience is that the solution does work very well. We've made quite a number of code changes and clever optimizations to fully integrate the web platform that we have with the Cloudflare solution, trying to take advantage of all of the things that are available. We've had some additional edge rules added to the system for the CDN, because anybody who uses or familiar with websites will know that marketing people are very keen on putting Google Analytics and other and Google pay-per-click track codes, the UTM underscore parameters on URLs to track the source of campaigns. And in reality, those are purely used by analytics and JavaScript, and the cached content doesn't need to vary by those particular query strings. So we've got some custom edge code that filters out and ensures we only have a single cache key, and ignoring a certain set of query string parameters. So that's one of the reasons we end up with very high caching. We've used the failover to aid deployments I talked about earlier. So it's a side benefit, but we can now take the primary origin server off air and fully deploy and test that without affecting any customers. Then using automation, deploy to all of the other origin servers and use the Cloudflare APIs to clear the appropriate pieces of cache to maximize the speed and efficiency of our deployments. We've made use of all the additional Cloudflare optimizations for mobile devices. And some of the things we're looking forward to is HTML minification. Although Cloudflare probably won't thank me for saying this, that HTML minification didn't quite work correctly, and I think that they're currently rewriting part of that module to ensure that minification does work. And another thing that load balancing doesn't do is sticky sessions. So as part of the site does use session variables as part of the booking journey in order to ensure that the booking proceeds and can work efficiently. So many sites that are dynamic would require sticky sessions. So we've got purely used geographic routing with primary and secondary servers. We're not attempting to load balance in any geographic region at the moment, where we've got a primary and secondary group of servers that deliver the content. But we will be able to further load balance once sticky sessions become available. So
all right,
I
perfect, Nigel.
Okay, I was just going to say, so in summary, we managed to achieve all of the objectives we set ourselves and ended up with an exceedingly high cache hit rate and a system that's proven to be highly available. And as the independent uptrends monitoring has shown, exceptionally good page response times, and as I think was mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, you know, a few hundred milliseconds on page response time or latency can have quite a big effect on, you know, people's use of the site, and we end up with far less dropout on the site. So, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nigel. This is really a great project, I think, and I really love the website and how it looks like. So, I think that this is a very nice case study. Also for sticky sessions, just to comment, this is on the roadmap for the next release. So we have a lot of new capabilities which are coming up later this year. So this is obviously an important capability. But, you know, as Nigel had mentioned, you know, it's very simple to implement the product. Enterprise customers, you have seen this, it's kind of less than 2 weeks. But I would like to walk you through the setup of the system itself. And typically this takes about 5 minutes. So we create a couple of short videos. And again, for many customers, this will work as it is, you know, so unless you want to do some special modifications or improvements. But we prepared some short videos I would like to walk you through. So first we will set up a monitor, then set up a pool, and then a failover policy, and then lastly, global load balancing for geolocation steering. So let me go here to the video and start this here. So in here you see the Cloudflare dashboard, and if you go to the traffic tab and then load balancing, then here you can create a load balancer. And the first step is really to create a monitor. And this is the configuration we'll use to determine whether servers are healthy or unhealthy. And this includes, of course, we check this through HTTP or HTTPS. We check for the status codes. We look at the intervals at which we check the timeouts and the retries and so on. So you see, it's very, very straightforward and very simple to actually do this. Then we save this here. And then, you know, from there we would go to the next step. And this is actually setting up a load balancer. So in Cloudflare terms, the load balancer is really a DNS host name. So for example, www.example.com, that you want traffic to be load balanced for. The load balancer defines which pool it wants to use and the order in which the pools should be used. So here, next we are creating a pool here. You can see this here. And the pool is a group of servers or endpoints, and they're each identified by the IP address or by the host name. So you can configure multiple pools and configure a failover priority as needed. And so, for example, you could define that pool A falls over to pool B, and then pool B falls over to pool C. So if you're familiar with DNS terminology, then think of a pool as a record set, except we only return addresses that are considered healthy. And so here now we are creating a second pool by repeating this flow here. So we're entering the server name here and the addresses. The notification email. The server is unhealthy. And that's pretty much it. This is pretty much what you need to do to set up load balancing. So let me start the next video. And here we are actually defining now a failover policy. And in this setup, traffic is steered to primary data center 1 as a default pool when no region is assigned. And we can now safely deploy the load balancer, which we're doing here right now. And in the Cloudflare dashboard, now we can see 2 pools, which we have defined. And we can review also then in a second here the help text. Here we go, just go there in case that this is needed. And then of course you can see, if you look at the dashboard, that both pools are obviously not available. I mean, obviously we used here some bogus IP addresses, but this is where you would then get some information. Then the next video. Here we go. And let's now go to edit and create a global load balancer for geolocation steering. And if you have servers in different geographic regions, you may want to steer traffic to pools in a different order, depending on where those users are connecting from. And first, you would select the region the traffic originates from, and then assign pools to the specific region. So we have done this here now for Europe, and now we need to do this again to repeat this flow for our second region, which would be the Eastern North Americas. And we want the Eastern North America traffic to be served from the primary data center and European traffic to be served from the secondary data center. And we can reorder the pools to set this up here very simply. Now we can go to the dashboard and we can see that the pools are assigned to the regions. And that's pretty much it. That's all you really need to do. You can see it's a very quick setup, 5 minutes. This will work for most of our customers. And of course, if you're an advanced customer like Great Rail Journey, then it would take a little bit more effort. But I mean, this is still very, very short time. And it emphasizes again how easy it is to set up the system. And I mentioned before again the benefits we have from our global network, like the fast DNS failover times. And of course, we can always ensure that traffic is routed to healthy servers, even under stress, because of the size of our network. So that kind of concludes the video. And I think at this time, I would just like to open it up for questions. And I think the first question I saw online already a while ago is, when will load balancing be available? And so let me answer this question. So load balancing is already available for our enterprise customers for a few weeks already. And we will also make this available to our self-serve customers, which are our customers who are on the free, the pro, or the BIS plan. The target date is May 2nd, 2017. So this is coming up within the next 2 weeks. Let me see, I see another question here. What are the failover times typically? Very good question. So our SLA is typically around 30 seconds, but the average is much, much faster. And so the average failover times are 10 seconds or less. And you know, I looked at our dashboard and it's often hovering around 7 seconds, which is very, very fast. So do we see any other questions? In a CNAME setup, if I use load balancing and switch a DNS record to DNS only in the DNS setting, what will be delivered to the user? Only the IP or healthy node in a load balancing pool? Yes, so yes, and actually this would be, yes, we would do the CNAME setup. Are there any other questions I see here? There's one question, can I use load balancers on partners? So I actually have to double check and get back to you on this. I'm not quite sure. I have to double check. So there was a question on time to recover from a failure. So I mentioned before, then of course with the setup, you know, then the failover times are very short within the seconds range. I also see another question here on pricing. So let me give you information on this. So essentially we are moving more and more to consumption-based pricing because we think this makes pricing really accessible, kind of advanced services really accessible to really also our smaller customers, because it makes it very, very affordable. And so load balancing starts with a $5 base fee, and so it's very cost effective. And then it's consumption based, so then we would charge 50 cents for every 500,000 DNS requests. And so this actually means that this is a very high number if you look at our typical customers. And actually the first 500 DNS requests are actually free. So with this, many of our customers actually would be able to access the service for $5. And then there are a couple of other capabilities which stack which you can add on for the low extra charge. So I just got an answer for a load balancing for partners. So load balancing is not yet available for partners, but we are working on this. Yeah, that's kind of the answer. Do we have any other questions here? All right, I'll give it a few more seconds if you have any more questions. So one more question here. If one URL return an HTTP error code like 404, the request can be redirected to the other servers of the pool? Yes, the answer is yes. And you can also define any error code with the system. All right, great. I think these were a lot of good questions. Thanks for actively participating. So I would like to thank you in my name, and also, of course, for thank Nigel for participating and spending time with us. Here you see also our email addresses. So my email here at Cloudflare is cpaulus@cloudflare.com. And also you have here Nigel's address, which is nigelh@asolution.co.uk. So if you have any other questions or if you need help, please feel very free to reach out to me or to Nigel, and we would be happy to help you further. But thank you again for spending time with us today, and have a good day. Bye-bye.